Good afternoon, everyone. Hello, Xbox Nation, and happy 4th of July. Welcome to this week's Xbox Factor podcast. And before we get started, I had several community members asking about the Welsh gamer, and I'm happy to report that he's doing just fine. He stepped away from the show for a few weeks to handle some family-related business, but I just want to assure all of the fans he will be back in August. So everyone, send the Welsh gamer on Twitter best wishes. Everything is fine at home. It's just that he needed some time to take care of a few things. But you know what? I want to talk about today's awesome co-host making his first appearance on any of the Double Barrel Gaming live shows. So let's give him a proper boomstick intro. Making his way all the way from Newcastle, England, besides being a diehard gamer, he's a very proud husband. He's the COO and co-founder of the BG4GHub.com, which stands for By Gamers for Gamers. Lover of all games and friends to all gamers, regardless of what flag you fly, BG4G.com is your number one source to a real gaming website that promises no pandering, no BS, no console war shenanigans, just honest opinions from gamers like you and me. Please welcome Tom Wild.
What an intro. I feel humbled. My God, that was absolutely fantastic. Thank you.
Well, hey, listen, Tom, first of all, it is a pleasure to be working with you. A couple of weeks ago, if you didn't know, Tom and I had been working together behind the scenes. He was very kind enough to offer the Double Barrel Gaming channel to be a part of this BG4G hub. And of course, I immediately said yes. And what does that mean? It only means that the different parts of the world, especially in, of course, England and that part of the country, are now my particular shows are being highlighted along with so many other content creators. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that, Tom?
Of course, BG4G Hub is not just a website. It is a community. It's a community by gamers for gamers. And in regards to the podcast and everything, we've got a tab where we've only selected the best as what we like to what we think is the best. So you just simply go on it, click on podcast, and bang, it will give you a straight link to every single one of these podcast channels, like yourself. For example, we got our own one, the BG4G Hubcast. Is still in baby steps, but it's not just you, it's not just us. It's going to be open to anybody who wants to get involved as well. So if you've got your own gaming podcast that you would like to put onto the website, we can. But this isn't a whole come to us. This is about the Xbox Factor podcast. But no, it's a community. It's growing. It's in baby steps. It's only been really active for about a month. And what we're trying to do is pretty much what you said in my intro then, give you honest opinions, none of this console war stuff, no shenanigans, pure honesty, no pandering to the big companies or anything else. We're very hopeful on it about this, and we think it's going to be good. We think it's going to be good.
Yeah, you know what? I have to say, all of his information is in the show notes. I linked everything to not only Tom Wild on Twitter, but of course the BG4G website, which when you go to it, it's very appealing to the eye. A lot of information there for you. And it's a very professional site, and there's a lot of information. But you know what? I want to open up the show with a lot of Alan Wake shenanigans that has been going on. Now, obviously, it made major news on Monday. Again, if you're a fan of Double Barrel Gaming, you're going to notice that I started doing smaller videos again. It was fan requested. And of course, because I'm relatively still kind of wet behind the ears, I reached out to several big time YouTubers in the form of like Salty from Saltiest Gaming, Randall Thor 19, of course, several people that are on the BRAP podcast, and to get their opinion on whether or not I should start doing the videos again, because I enjoy being behind the microphone. I like the live content, but I thought that, I felt that the channel wasn't growing. And of course, everyone I spoke to who I trust, indubitably, said that I should start doing at least 1 or 2 videos. So as you can see, this week I did 2 videos. I have 2 more that are going to be going up next week that I've already written the scripts for. So you're going to notice that as a change. But going back to Alan Wake, a lot of people don't may or may not even know who Alan Wake is. And before I did the video the other day, I put on Alan Wake's American Nightmare, and I just wanted to see what that game looked like, because I beat them both. I loved all of the everything that Alan Wake is exactly that's right up my alley. It's a strong single player, story driven, adult themed game. What you find on Sony's machines, and obviously that rules the roost at Sony. And at one point, it used to be important to Microsoft, and we found out some pretty interesting information, Tom, where Remedy actually owned the IP, but the publishing rights were being held by Microsoft. And obviously, I wasn't the only one to do stories. There are plenty of people that did stories. A lot of information was out there, a lot of opinions on social media, and one of the opinions, Tom, that kept coming up is that Microsoft was holding this IP hostage, and they haven't done anything since the Alan Wake, which launched as a 360 digital title only. It's called Alan Wake's American Nightmare. So I put it on the other day, and I gotta tell you, the game really looked pretty freaking good considering it was old as hell. And as an Xbox gamer, as a gamer as a whole, I proudly support all three consoles, and I enjoy it. Especially, I've talked about this on this show and many other shows that I produce. How Sony speaks to me as a gamer when they release these adult themed games that over the shoulder. A lot of people are like, oh, but they all look the same. But okay, that's fine. But that's what I enjoy, and that's the kind of feel I got from Alan Wake. So my question to you, Tom. I know you didn't read too much about it, but my question to you is, considering that the fan base, the Xbox fan base, has been clamoring for an adult themed, over the shoulder, narrative filled, story driven title, do you kind of feel that maybe they kind of dropped the ball by not doing something with this particular franchise that they could have?
Well, if the fan demand is there and they're ignoring it, then yes, they have dropped the ball. Obviously, as you just mentioned, I ain't too familiar with Alan Wake as a whole, so I'm assuming the last games that were released did well. They were very successful, well received, I'm assuming. Clearly, since they're still clamoring for it today. But the fact is that if they're just purely ignoring the fans' demands, then this could be trouble. I mean, who knows? I mean, this may end up as a PlayStation exclusive.
Yes.
You never know. So, I mean, it's a black eye, so to speak. It's a mistake for them to do nothing for, when was the last one that was out? Quite a few years ago.
It's quite a few years ago, yes.
Yeah. And the fact that they just done nothing, it doesn't look too good. Now, I ain't trying to slander them or anything, but, they really probably should have jumped on the boat when the demand is there. So,
well, I mean, look, I'm going to say this. Before E3, we heard that Remedy might be purchased by Microsoft, and then now we're hearing that they kind of are very much in the same ideology as Insomniac, where they want to stay. They just want to be a third-party developer and stay unbought by everyone. Obviously,
yeah.
But we've also heard that Sony has again, this is nothing. This is no confirmation or anything. This is what we're hearing, and this is not the first time I'm talking about it, that Sony, in the same way that Microsoft was buying up certain studios, may be on the hunt for one or two more studios to add to their already outstanding first-party development houses, I should say. And Remedy I got to be honest with you, Remedy's pedigree, they do take their time when it comes to putting out games. There's no that they've notoriously been known for that. But at the same time, their stories are strong. Now, I've heard people say on Twitter that, they're giving too much credit and they're overhyped. Well, if you're a fan of their work, like for instance, Control comes out, I believe it's in August. It could be at the end of July. I think it's in August. I'm super stoked for that game. I'm really excited because it does look like a Quantum Break 2 with a female protagonist. but it's a new game. It does look like she has, Jedi-esque kind of powers. It's a supernatural themed story, which they're known for. And I'm interested, but could you? I mean, again, I'm going to pose this question to you, Tom, as well as everybody in the chat. And I want to thank everybody for being here on a holiday. So thanks so much for hanging out. I do greatly appreciate it. Could you just imagine if this winds up being a PlayStation 5 exclusive? And the reason why I say that isn't because I have any revelations of this happening, but there has been reports that there's kind of bad blood between Microsoft and Remedy. And if Sony, which is, listen, they're cutthroat marketers. Whoever's working for them, they need to give them a raise because they did really good this generation. I can actually see them reaching out to Remedy and saying, hey, listen, we'll help fund the game like they did with several others. Here's a bag of money. Make this game. Could you just imagine if the next Alan Wake is rebooted, I should say, Tom, and this winds up being a PlayStation 5 exclusive? Now, you said the word black eye, and I said that in my review. I said that on Twitter. I think it would be a black eye, a kick to the face, a stab to the back, a kick to the balls, whatever you want to say, but it would not look good on Microsoft. What are your thoughts on that, dude?
Oof. Well, no, of course it would not look good on it from Microsoft end, but I mean, could I see it happening? Well, I can't exactly guarantee anything. It's just all speculation, pie in the sky type of thing. But if there's bad blood there, then it's somewhat likely. I'd say it'd be safe to say it's somewhat likely that could happen, especially if Sony is on a buying spree and decides to get the rights of Alan Wake. And again, if the demand's there, people will buy it. Of course, Sony, PlayStation. I'm not saying next generation, but I mean, if you're going to go by numbers, they got more consoles sold than Xbox. So I suppose that's more. It'd be more appealing for Remedy to see those statistics, be like, okay, if we made it for Xbox, you only got, I don't know, what was it, 40 million?
Yeah.
And then you see how many PlayStation 4s are sold, and it's near 100. They'd be pretty silly to not go with that. That idea, the whole plan of just being a PlayStation exclusive, but that is if it is this generation as well. But if they fund them the massive amount of money, again, they'll be very stupid to just leave that money on the table, so to speak. But if it does happen, then Microsoft's reputation will be damaged. Not majorly, but it will be damaged to say the least.
Well, I mean, think about it. Again, their reputation right now, as it stands, is not where it was in the 360 days, right? They're known as a company that puts out mediocre, titles, and I disagree 1,000%. I think Microsoft is positioning themselves to really shock the world come next generation. But if that does wind up happening, I mean, look, there's a couple of reasons why I believe it won't. There's also a couple of reasons why I believe it will. So I want to go into why I don't think it's going to happen. Control, which is coming out, is going to be a big title for the company, and it's a multi-plat title. And if you go multi-plat, more people have access to your game. And I believe it's releasing on the PS4, Xbox One, and the PC. So you're going to have a bit of a fan base. I'm hoping it does well for them. I'm hoping that the game sells 5 million copies, which I think would be considered a success across 3 platforms. And if they do decide to do, let's say, for instance, they decide to do like an Alan Wake HD version of the 2 and release it on 3 places, I will buy it again and play through it again. The control felt a little floaty, but the game is also like 6 or 7 years old. It might actually be older than that. It could be, I think it was 2012 when it came out. So it might be 7 years old. It had like kind of like a wonky kind of a feel to it. So I'm hoping that they can update that. But I would definitely think that maybe they're going to test the waters with an HD remake and make that available for the PlayStation audience as well as the PC audience and hopefully the Xbox audience as well. That would actually be good for them if they went in there and cleaned up, because the game actually still looks fantastic considering it's as old as it is. But you know what, Tom? I like I said, I don't want to bore everybody. We have almost 25 people watching, and again, I know the number is going to be low because it is a holiday, and people, they're spending time with their families. But I want to thank everyone that's here, especially a lot of new faces. So I want to thank everybody for that. If it's your first time tuning in, get ready for a great show. This is an Xbox specific show. But obviously, we will be mentioning Sony. Actually, as a matter of fact, I'm going to segue into the next topic, Tom. And Final Fantasy VII Remake is coming in 2020. And as we know, or what little information we do know about it, it's a PlayStation 4 timed exclusive. And though the exclusive part actually doesn't bother me, it's the hush-hush nature of Square Enix that has me touting media bias for the PlayStation exclusive game. And obviously, this is an original topic of discussion that I wrote. And you know what? Before I get any unnecessary hate, I've already pre-ordered my copy of Final Fantasy VII for the PS4 because I'm such a huge fan of the game. I am not going to wait. I will buy this game on multiple platforms. But my issue here that I actually have, was made public late last year that Final Fantasy VII would be a multi-plat release. I think that was, Square got a little, backlash from the community, and they basically had to come out and say, yeah, it's going to come out on everything. Because if you remember a couple of years ago, this particular game, along with Shenmue 3 and something else, basically won E3 for, according to the source, the people, that it won Sony that E3. And obviously, when it was announced that it was going to be a multi-plat, it was reported on by all the mainstream media as you would expect. Prior to E3 2019, Sony had its State of Play, and that one would lasted about 12 minutes. I actually thoroughly enjoyed it. I like that little snippet of rapid fire games, and they kind of shocked the world by showing us Final Fantasy VII gameplay towards the end of it. And at E3 this year, which I happen to be lucky enough to get to, Square Enix had taken the 9 p.m. spot that was held by Sony for so many years. And obviously, at this particular big show, they showed off a significant chunk of Final Fantasy VII. And if before I continue, I don't want to forget him because he's already put for Infinite AA with the outstanding $1 super chat. I want to thank you for being here and thanks for the generosity. And Infinite AA with again with an additional $2 super chat. He says, "Here, happy 4th of July, Boom!" And I want to say thank you for being here, AA. I do appreciate it, and of course the generosity. Thank you so much for that. But continuing with Final Fantasy VII, if you weren't sure, Tom, basically during Judges Week, which is where journalists from every media site go ahead of the public, and they get a chance to see these games behind closed doors. Sometimes even play them. Most of the time they play them, and it won awards. It basically won E3. But Tom, this is where the media bias claims come into play. And I know there are a lot of people in the community that are like, nah, the media's bias does not exist. And listen, I appreciate and respect everyone's opinion, but I'm gonna have to, call them out. Yeah, I'm gonna have to disagree terribly with that, simply because, I don't look under rocks or every stone to try and find it, but when it's in your face, Tom, when it's there, you have to call it out, which is what I'm going to do. Now, the reason why I'm calling it out is because if you recall the Rise of the Tomb Raider situation that happened at Gamescom, and I remember that very, very specifically. The when it was announced at Gamescom that it was going to be an exclusive for the Xbox One, the media outrage was basically unreal. I understand the fans being outraged, and everyone had a right to be, because if you're a fan of Tomb Raider, you don't want to wait for a game. But the actual media coverage surrounding it basically made Microsoft out to be this big bad wolf, in my opinion. Obviously, it was a timed exclusive. But what I found to be very, very questioning the integrity of a lot of these these big media companies was that they really made Crystal Dynamics and Microsoft out to be these horrible people, when obviously Sony does this all the time, and no one talks about it. So before I get into the letter that Crystal Dynamics wrote, in your opinion, Tom, and I want to get the opinion of the chat as well, do you find it very strange that Final Fantasy, E3 is come and gone. We know that it's already been reported that it's going to be a multi-plat game, but I know that because being that you run a website, being that you're a part of something that talks about the news, have you seen any of the big time media questioning how long this exclusive is going to be for? Because I know I haven't.
No, I haven't seen anything saying when, how long this period between the PlayStation exclusive coming out and the rest of the world. I haven't seen anything. I haven't seen anything at all. Not on any platform, on any website at all. Maybe I'm looking in wrong places, but heck, maybe you are as well. But it's just pretty bad. They need to come out and say something, in my personal opinion, at least.
Well, I mean, look, I real quick, again, this is a kind of rewinding the clock a bit, but just to show the significance of how damaging the negativity and the media outrage happened. What do you call it? Crystal Dynamics felt the pressure so much so that they actually had to write a public letter, and I'm going to read it real quick. Sure, I'm going to take 5 minutes, but folks, just bear with me. And this is just for relevance. It says, "Dear Tomb Raider community, as you may have seen, we just announced that Rise of the Tomb Raider, which is coming holiday 2015, is exclusive on Xbox. We consider all of you to be the lifeblood of Tomb Raider, and we work and the work that we do at Crystal. I'd like to give some insight into this decision and why we feel this is the very best thing for the Tomb Raider sequel we're creating at the studio. Tomb Raider in 2013 was a success due to the large part of your continued support. Our goal has been to deliver something truly special with Rise of the Tomb Raider, and today's announcement with Microsoft is one step to help us put Tomb Raider on top of the action-adventure gaming genre. Our friends at Microsoft have always seen huge potential in Tomb Raider and had believed in our vision since our first unveil on the stage in E3 2011. We know that they will get behind this game more than any support we've ever had from them in the past. We believe this is a step to really forging the Tomb Raider brand as to one of the biggest in gaming with their help, belief, and backing of a major partner like Microsoft." And this is where it gets ridiculous. This doesn't mean that we're walking away from our fans who only play on PlayStation or PC. Those are great systems with great partners and amazing communities. We have Lara Croft and the Temple of Osiris coming to those platforms in December, and Tomb Raider, the Definitive Edition, is available on the PS4. We know that there are probably many more questions and concerns. Please send them to us, and we'll answer the best to our ability. Meanwhile, we're going all out to try and make something truly special, which they did. And at the time, Daryl Gallagher, who's now with Microsoft, was the head of the studio. Now, I mean, listen, I understand that in this era of gaming, especially this era of social media, you got to be politically correct. And I totally get that. But I mean, the media outrage, once again, the one-sidedness of this story forced the Daryl Gallagher, who was the head of the studios, to write this letter, put it out to the public. And it's funny, it didn't even sell that well on PlayStation 4 when it finally released a year later. Now, maybe because the game was old, but listen, old game or not, Rise of the Tomb Raider is probably one of the best console releases this generation. Now, and like we discussed a few seconds ago, Tom, there has been zero backlash from the media. I mean, it's pretty unbelievable how hush and quiet they have been. And I want to pose this question to you, and I want to hear what the chat has to say about this. Do you believe that there's actual media bias simply because of the marketing power that PlayStation has and does with all these companies, that they're not making waves as to, hey, I'm curious, Tom, who's going to ask the question first? When is this game coming to Xbox? Because again, you haven't seen it, I haven't seen it. I find it to be ridiculous that we don't have this information in an era where you can get the information on a toilet.
I'm not surprised that this deal is actually, even possible, let alone actually happened, because, as you just mentioned then, it happened with Tomb Raider on the Xbox, so you shouldn't be surprised about that. But the whole thing that is surprising is the fact that there has been a lack of pushback. And this, as you mentioned, in a very, yes, we're living in a very politically correct world, but we're also living in a very critical world as well, where no matter whatever you do, every decision, every action you make as an individual company, whatever, you're guaranteed to be met with criticism or even judgment.
Yes.
So, I mean, very quickly, when I typed in Final Fantasy VII on Twitter, which is probably one of the most vocally toxic places of all internet, the top result was actually IGN. Now, we're not going to get onto that, but the first thing that they tweeted was Tifa's breast size, saying that she was actually having a normal size bra. I mean, how the hell can someone on the caliber and the conglomerate of IGN tweet about something as stupid and minor like that when you got something like this going on in the background? And no one seems to be asking any of the questions. I know the big people are. I mean, I don't think anyone else is really asking much of the questions, but I haven't dig deep far into actually trying to find that myself.
I looked. I'm going to tell you right now, Tom. I did as a producer of content. If I don't do my due diligence to find the proper information, then it's a big epic fail for Boom. And I'm not going to let anybody down. More specifically, I'm not going to let myself down. So I went looking, and I went to all the big sites, and all I kept getting was exactly what you were talking about. Breast size bras. Do they have to reduce her breast from IGN? I mean, come on, guys. It's man, if that's what you guys are going with, I don't know. Maybe you kind of lost touch, because I don't care about her breast size. She's not real, number one, and number two, Jesus. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But then when I went looking, Tom, all I could find was the comments. Sony didn't even show up to E3 and won because this is game of the show, and. I mean, it's hilarious, but also it just proves to me that the dollar that Sony spends at these companies, like the IGNs, like the Giant Bombs, like the GameSpots, the Kotakus, they must heavily invest in these websites, and maybe they're afraid that if they do start asking the questions, the funding will go away. Is that possible, Tom?
Well, of course it's possible. I mean, I don't have any financial figures here, but I'm assuming that they're making a boatload of money. And as you put it, and to be honest, well, I'm not going to say that that BG4G would ever do this, but money does talk. And if you're having a lot of money put in, being invested, you don't want to bite the hand that feeds you, I suppose. But morally, it's pretty damn low. It's pretty low, the fact you allow your website, your little community that you build up, to be tweeting and talking about useless, pointless stuff. Again, referring back to this, it's a shame. It looks like a fantastic game.
It's going to be amazing. There's no doubt.
Of course. But that doesn't mean, because of this timed exclusive, that Sony won E3 or anything else. They weren't bloody there. How the hell can they win without turning up?
Right.
Or what they should be saying is that Final Fantasy VII won E3 instead of PlayStation. Complete asinine, if you ask me. Now, I ain't much of a fan of these types of heavily Japanese-influenced type of games, but I guarantee this is going to be a huge, huge game in the future. It's going to be such a huge game in the market, and the fact that people are just ignoring very important features, very important things about it, it's completely ass backwards, in my opinion.
It's a shame. It's a shame that, again, I don't care about that it being exclusive for X amount of time, because obviously you saw what Phil Spencer was able to do. He's been to Japan, as we know, at least between 6 and 8 times in the last 2 years. And Fantasy Star 2 Online is an exclusive for, I think it's over a year on Xbox. And I know, again, the game came out in 2012, and a lot of people are like, well, that's an old game. It's an old game, but I can tell you when that releases next year, it's going to have a significant fan base. If you don't know who it is, if you've never heard of Phantasy Star, it is a big IP. So for Microsoft, and more specifically Phil Spencer, to get that done, it's a JRPG. It's something that the console needs, and it's going to be big for them. And I'm sure Final Fantasy VII is going to sell loads and loads of more consoles for PlayStation. Again, the exclusive part is not the problem. The lack of information from anyone, including Square Enix, is the big problem. And again, I don't know why they're not talking about it, and more specifically, more importantly, why no one's asking about it. But you know what? I don't want to beat this horse anymore. Again, we don't deal in console war shenanigans. I just wanted to kind of get the pulse of the community, and see what they thought. And it seems like there's a lot of chatter going on obviously in the chat, because people like Final Fantasy, and if you are a one console only individual, that kind of sucks that you have to wait, or it makes you go out and buy another console, which again, it's something that Sony does very well. But I want to talk about a game that got beaten up. Talk about getting beaten up. Crackdown 3, Tom. A game that obviously had its development woes. Obviously it was touted as this next gen, genre-defining destructibility, and obviously that didn't happen. Now it's clear now that the game is out, and now we know behind the scenes what's going on. The company that came up with this destruction technology was purchased by Epic, and they left the project, and Microsoft had to scramble to kind of do their own thing. Obviously we got what we got. The multiplayer, it's just not my bag, to be honest with you. I'm more of a selfish single player dude.
Same here.
But I thoroughly and truly enjoyed Crackdown 3. But the Flying High update just released, which adds devastating weapons, and allows you to fly around with a wingsuit that you can jump off a building and you just take off and you go. Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which again, game of the generation. It's just so freaking good. But I wanted to talk about this, not just because it's a Microsoft game, not because it's on Game Pass, but it's the fact that they're still supporting a game they could have easily just walked away from. Okay, put it out there, get it out there. It's part of the old regime, Crackdown 3, whatever, who gives a shit? But they're still supporting it, Tom. And I want to talk about that for a second. And, obviously Crackdown 3 hasn't really garnered the best reviews since launch. But like I said, I had a blast playing the game. The game is fun to play, and I think that's people forget that we play games for fun. And I don't think you're any less of a gamer if you enjoyed Crackdown, because I know a lot of people got browbeaten on social media. God forbid you should say you enjoy a Crackdown 3. It was like you were calling someone's mother or something. You know what I'm saying? But in your opinion, for someone that, again, that you have your ear to the floor when it comes to what's going on in the gaming world because of your website, are you happy to see that this game is still garnering support from the developer?
Oh, of course. How could you not? I mean, how long have they been working on Crackdown 3 for? How many times has it been delayed? You put all this work and effort in, and it's not just in regards to Crackdown 3, it's regards of any game. There's a lot of hard work that goes into a game. And the fact that, yes, they've had a lot of unfair criticism, in my opinion, it was unfair. And the fact they can just turn around and say, hey, look, okay, some of you have enjoyed it, some of you haven't, but we're going to give you this update for free. I mean, you could easily package that as a DLC and slap a few pounds or dollars or euros or whatever on it and make a bit of extra money. But the fact is that they are sticking with it. They're making it for free for a game which I suppose not technically free, but you don't have to pay an additional amount to play the game. You just pay for Game Pass, even though there is an option to pay for it by itself. Now, but in truth, now in the actual game itself, I haven't actually played much of it, and I'm going to tell you a little revelation now. I actually haven't had. I've only had my Xbox One S for about 2, if not 3 weeks.
Okay.
So yeah, I know it's a bit strange for me to come on an Xbox podcast when I
No,
don't
not at all. Listen,
get my
listen.
feet wet.
You bought one. Listen. I say this to everybody, whether you're the host, whether you're the co-host, whether you're someone that's coming out in the chat. Everyone is welcome here, no matter what flag you fly. That's the thing about Double Barrel Gaming. The channel itself is, because I proudly support all three consoles. Everyone's opinion is important to me, as long as it's a proper one. So the fact that you're telling everyone that, hey, listen, I've only had an Xbox One S for a couple of weeks, doesn't make your opinion any less relevant.
Thank you. It means a lot. But yeah, going back to this, it's a fun game, and as you said, if you're not having, well, that's the essence of playing games. You're having fun, you're engaged. You can, and I've played bits of Crackdown 3, and I've spent until at least 1 o'clock in the morning playing with Mass Mayhem on Crackdown 3, and it is probably some of the most fun I've ever had. And usually, I'm a single player type of guy. This obviously has the campaign single player mode, but still, it's a fantastic game, which no one should be complaining about, that you get an update for free. And let me just say that update, which could have been, as I put before, a DLC, is phenomenal. The fact
It is.
It really is. I mean, I've only had a little bit of a go with trying the wingsuit. It was a pain to actually maneuver, but it was fun because I think I got an achievement for smacking into a wall in less than like 3 seconds. But it's so fun. The elemental weapons is just amazing. I love the design of it and everything else. The damage that you do and everything. It's fantastic. But for people to, I don't know, will people bash this one? I don't know. Maybe, possibly the only thing I can really ever complain about is the controls of the wingsuit. But it's a fantastic little update for free, must I add. There has been much worse updates / DLCs which people can complain about. I mean, like Saints Row the Third. I don't know if you've ever played that one. But
Loved it. Absolutely loved Saints Row the Third.
It's one of my favorite games. But the thing is, though, is that I remember, and I was a sucker because obviously Saints Row 2 had the cheats, which you just type in the phone. Saints Row the Third, you had to buy the cheats, and I was a sucker, and I bought one. And literally, it was just like infinite health, which I didn't realize that you could do with just upgrading your health. Anyway, I'm going off topic, but still.
That's okay. It's fine. This is a conversational podcast, my friend. Talk away.
Fair enough, then. But yeah, no, Saints Row the Third, it had a lot more. I'm just giving that as an example. That was a very, very cheeky and very, very. And that should have got a lot more backlash than, say, Crackdown 3 has ever got. But the fact that they're actually sticking with this project, updating it, trying to make it better for people to enjoy, I personally applaud them, and I know a lot of people out there would as well. And something like they tried with Fallout 76. Oh yeah, okay, it's not well. Yeah, with free updates, I was about to say. You got to applaud people for sticking with what they've created, because a lot of hard work has gone into this game as well as any other game as well. So I personally like this update. I think it's fantastic that they're giving people free update, which enhances the fun factor of the game. It's fantastic, and I look forward to see if there is going to be any more updates in the future. I look forward to it.
Well, you know what? Again, what I love about it is that, again, they could have easily walked away from the game. I don't think people understand the significance of a game that, yes, it came out in 2019. It was a very early release. I think it was in February, if I recall correctly. And now we're in July, right? The year is going to be coming to a close after the summer. I can't believe we're even saying that. This 2019 is basically come and gone.
Goes quick. Goes really quick.
Yeah, and they could have easily just walked away. But you know what? You know why this is, besides the content, which is significant content, by the way, is the achievement factor. Like, if they didn't give a flying S about the game anymore, they could have just dropped this content and be like, okay, go crazy. But they give you achievements on top of already the 1,000 achievements that you get, or the 2,000, I believe it is. I think it's 1,000 per. For Wrecking Zone, as well as the actual game. And listen, folks, I'm gonna say this: if you don't have an addiction to collecting orbs, I don't know maybe you're a better person than me, because I could not stop collecting those damn orbs. And I'm, it's just, you know what it is? It's silly fun. it's fun. You could, what I enjoy about Crackdown before, and I'm going to enjoy now with the update, Tom, is that it's one of those games that whether you play for 15 minutes or 3 hours, you're going to be laughing, you're going to be hanging out, and you're going to be enjoying yourself. Is that fair to say?
Oh, there's more than fair to say. More than fair to say. Like, as you said, collecting those orbs. That's why I was up until 1 o'clock in the morning.
I love it. That's great.
It's very addictive. And if you're playing that game for, as you said, however many amount of times, and you're barely laughing, if you're slightly entertained, it's doing its job.
Yes, and I think people do not put they put that again. I understand that it may not be your AAA Sony banger. I totally get that. I'm not, and if you're in the chat and that's what you believe. Hey, that's what I hear you. And again, for me, it's easier to not look stuff like that, take stuff like that serious, because I support all 3 consoles. So when I want to play that adult themed, over the shoulder, story driven content, I just put on my PlayStation 3, pop in whatever new game is coming out that has that, and I play. But for the most part, again, I take nothing away. And I want to just throw this out there. As much fun as I had with God of War, Detroit Become Human, and Spider-Man. Let's just take Spider-Man for instance, because it is amazing graphics, but it did have a comic book kind of feel to it. The same amount of fun I had in that game, and I played that game for 50, maybe 60 plus hours, because I'm still trying to platinum the damn thing, and I'm looking around, I'm swinging around New York City trying to get all the pictures of the tags. I think it's one of the last things I have to do, and I'll platinum that game. I had the same amount of fun with Crackdown 3, a game totally different, totally unrealistic graphics, but I still had the same fun. So, folks, it really doesn't matter what the kind of game is, as long as you're enjoying it and having fun. No one should or could tell you otherwise. Tom, would you before we move on to the next topic? Would you agree with that sentiment?
Oh, of course. That's the beauty of gaming. There's something for everybody.
Yes, absolutely. Well, listen, I want to talk about Gears 5 for a second, but not so much Gears 5. I pulled a story from Gaming Boat, which, of course, is one of my favorite sites to go to. And there's been some talk about them making a new IP. And Rod Ferguson, who I had the pleasure of meeting at E3, which is an absolute proper gentleman, said never say never to the coalition making a new IP, which I think would be freaking amazing. Recently, studio head Rod Ferguson was asked in an interview with the loathed or loved IGN, whichever one is, you fall on that side of the aisle. If there's a chance that the coalition will ever end up working on an entirely new IP, his answer was never say never. Now, Ferguson said that though the coalition was set up as a studio with the primary objective of looking after the Gears property, he does say that right now the company has its hands full. They have Gears 5, they have Gears Tactics, and Gears Pop. And obviously in that order is the size. Gears 5 is going to be a monster. It's probably going to be in running for the game of the year. I see it falling in at like maybe a 92 meta, to be honest with you. Maybe possibly more, but I think it's going to be one of the bigger titles this generation. Gears Tactics, I don't know if anyone else is excited for that, but I am for sure. I'm hoping that does come to the Xbox One. I'm hoping that they do take the time to add controls to it, or I'm really hoping that happens. And Gears Pop, listen, I'm going to be honest with you folks. When it's available, I'll probably download it. Maybe I'll play 15 minutes of it. It's not something I'm going to play, but it looks fun nonetheless. But they're not bound to do only one thing. And here's what Rod Ferguson had to say during that interview. And I want to read that because I thought it was pretty interesting. He said, "It's a terrible answer, but it's a never say never thing," said Ferguson. "We're the coalition. We wanted to brand ourselves around the franchise. We were looking at Turn 10 and we're looking at 343 and going, okay, these are dedicated studios to a dedicated franchise. And so we're very dedicated to the Gears franchise, but that's not to say we won't do other things. When I signed on in 2014, I had no idea where we were going to do a pop-based mobile game. And so, as we look beyond, one of the things about keeping key creative talent is that you potentially want to go into other things creatively. But right now, it's really all gears all the time. The fact that we're able to go to all of these different places with the comic book, novels, movies, and 3 different games is a lot. Now, I'm going to say this, Tom. There were rumors that they were in pre-production of the next Perfect Dark, which, if made by them, would be absolutely outstanding. Now, some people in the chat make, "Wow, Perfect Dark, that's an old IP. I want something new." Well, I agree. It would be pretty epic if they did create a new IP from the ground up, like what Playground Games is currently doing. But it would be pretty interesting if they took the talent that they have at the Coalition and rebooted Joanna Dark. I think she's a fantastic character with a tremendous amount of stories to continue to tell. And a reboot, you can go crazy. You know what I'm saying? You can make her like James Bond if you want, just obviously a female protagonist, and that's perfectly fine. In your opinion, Tom, obviously Gears 5 is important, and it should be. It should be important because it comes out in 2 months. And we want that game to be amazing. But would you personally, and I'm going to throw this out to the chat, would you guys like a new IP, an original IP from the Coalition?
Well, going on to Perfect Dark, I'll quickly touch on that one. Now, I know that was released many years ago. And
yes,
I believe
it was actually a 360 launch title, and it found life on the N64.
Yes, well, when it came out on the N64, I was barely just about to turn 5 myself.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm old.
I'm young. Oh no, I feel so bad.
No, don't be. Listen, dude, yeah. I got to see the industry grow. Go crazy. I don't mind.
Damn, fair enough. Yeah, so it came out 5 years old. I had a Nintendo 64 back then, but I think my brother and sister, they loved GoldenEye. But that's another thing. But anyway, so in regards to Perfect Dark, it came out when I was extremely young, and I never heard of this series before, and nor was I even interested in the 2010 reboot. But in regards of, I know you made a comment, people may be like, "Oh, that's an old IP. We want something new." We are living in a very nostalgia-heavy period of time, in my opinion. Like Final Fantasy VII, Resident Evil 2, and even the Destroy All Humans remake. So, of course, there's many more. So, those who do remember Perfect Dark, or those who have heard about it, maybe interested in like a female James Bond or something out, they best keep an eye out for a possible reboot. Would it be an Xbox exclusive? Well, isn't Rare a Microsoft subsidiary?
Yes, yeah. Actually, it would be an exclusive if it's gonna be released by the Coalition, which is owned by Microsoft, which is their first party. Yeah. That IP Microsoft owns because they bought Rare. Yes,
I just thought I'll throw that out there, so just in case anyone was a Sony and the Perfect Dark fan, it most likely will be just a exclusive. But moving away, so in regards of going back, still sticking with Joanna Dark. Again, we're also living in a very nostalgia-heavy period of time, but we're also living in a time where people are very keen, and society is very keen to shine a spotlight onto a strong, independent female character. And
yes, absolutely correct. That's true. That's a great point.
Yeah, and I think that Joanna Dark is perfect. I mean, yeah, we had Atomic Blonde, which was mentioned, that film, which was mentioned. Well, I'm over here at least. Someone said, "Oh, it's the female James Bond." So, okay, we got a film equivalent to it. Don't know if it did well or not, but now we can have a video game about it. But now I won't go into speech about women's rights and equality and everything like that, other than I support it and everything. But right now, with the way that the world is and the mainstream media, or anything to do with women's rights and independency, they'll jump straight on it. So now is the right time to capitalize on a reboot, which could be beneficial for the Coalition. But the fact is about a possible new IP. I mean, how many people have they got?
They have a total of 15 first-party studios currently. Yes, 15.
Well, I mean, anyway, so just about to say, why not take the risk of creating a new IP? There's interest there. He's already said that never say never. They want to be pushed in a different way. They want to be challenged creatively. I don't think that even if they did want to venture out into something new, it wouldn't. And if say it failed, say, not going to say it will, but say this new IP just didn't lift off. It's not going to be a huge detriment to the creators who created it, is it? Because obviously they got huge amount of other things to fall back on, like the Gears of War and everything like that. So would I be up for a new IP? Definitely. Of course I would.
I think everyone would. I don't think what you're saying, I don't think there's a person in the chat that would disagree with that, Tom.
Yeah. But for me personally, I wouldn't mind seeing, and I think it's the right time for something like Perfect Dark Reboot. My personal opinion, of course.
Yeah, no, and you make a great point. First of all, you know why it would work. And again, we're not going to spend an hour on this particular topic, but there's a couple of things you have to look at. First of all, real world situations do make their way into gaming, whether it's gaming talk, whether it's gaming, websites, or whether it's actual games. And a strong female protagonist is something that would not only do well for the demographic of the female demographic, because obviously, if you don't know this, folks, back in the days, gaming was mostly a boys' club. And hello, just welcome to 2019. That's not the fact anymore. There is a significant amount of female gamers, which I am so happy to see. And I don't necessarily know if it's a 50-50 split. I know that it's close. I know that if you look at the demographic that the last thing I was able to find, I think it was like 44% of the populace is female based. And I think that is freaking awesome. Gaming is for everyone. And why I think it would work isn't just so much would be a female thing. That's here nor there. I don't care what sex the character is, as long as it's a proper told story that makes sense. I'm good. You got a sale from Boom. But why I think it would work, not only is she, I think, a very interesting character. I think a character that deserves her story to be retold to a new generation, but it fits the Microsoft profile. So you say, well, Boom, what are you talking about? Well, if you don't recall the original, and again, a lot of people are young and they don't remember Perfect Dark, it was heavily multiplayer, like GoldenEye. So they could logistically make a game for Xbox Game Pass and the console as an exclusive. Again, exclusive sell, folks. It's something important, and I still believe that. And it falls in line with what Microsoft wants to do in games as a service. Not only could they continue the story of Joanna Dark through DLC, which would probably be just free, but they could also go into what makes Gears and Halo so important with the multiplayer. And if the Coalition is going to do that, just look at what they've done with Gears. Now, I know there are a lot of people that just play Gears for online. And what's crazy is Gears Online is as crazy a fan base as you could possibly get. So they could logistically kill two birds with one stone, get a new old IP, reboot it in the style of what the Coalition is known for, and give us both an amazing single player game as well as an incredible multiplayer. What do you think about that, Tom?
Oh, it's the best of both worlds if that does happen. But of course, nothing's set in stone, but never say never, I suppose.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Again, listen, again, this is all rumors until they come out and say something. But I want to move on to the next topic. Now we're going to kind of drop it into neutral for a bit. Microsoft's ID at Xbox strategy, according to this story that I pulled from the page of course, again, Gaming Bolt. Is basically Microsoft was touted in saying that they're not going to change their views on how they handle the ID at Xbox strategy with Project Scarlet coming out next year. And I have to say, this is big news, considering that Sony just made a real spit in your face kind of a statement that they're only going to cater to the big budget AAA games, and that no one, and this is their words, this is not mine, folks. I'm not making this stuff up. As a matter of fact, it's an unnamed Sony official that stated that an indie game doesn't sell consoles. So if you recall back in 2014, 2015, 2016, Sony was the rah-rah champion of the indie scene, and now they have completely moved away from it in a way that's almost insulting. And I have to say, as a fan of indies, again, I don't play them all, but I play all games. And whether it's a AAA, AA, single A, or an indie, I enjoy gaming as a whole, not just one particular genre of games. I enjoy the indie scene as well. And we've seen some pretty interesting indie games come out. I don't know. There's a little one called Cuphead by a studio MDHR that we're going to talk about, towards the end of the show. That was an indie game, right? That, they were like the engine that could, and it winds up being a critical success. So not every indie title is going to be that kind of success, but in 2014, Microsoft launched this Idea at Xbox program where they were going to take what they learned from the 360 era and make it and allow independent video game developers to self-publish for Windows and, of course, the Xbox One. And obviously, in this generation, we have seen significant big titles make their debut there. And here's just a few of them. You look below: Inside, Void Bastards, Cuphead, Ashen, Shovel Knight, Hellblade, and Rocket League, just to name a few. And currently, Tom, there's over 1,100 games released through this program since 2014. And so in 5 years, they have 1,100 games that would have never seen the light of day, but they're on the Xbox One, which is freaking bananas. Now, in an interview with Eurogamer, Chris Charla gave assurance that Microsoft's strategy with the Idea at Xbox program won't change with the Xbox Scarlet. And this is what he had to say. He says, yes, absolutely. Our main goal at the start of the program is our main goal right now. Just to make life easy for indie developers. If we can make life easy for them and make getting onto the platform as easy as possible, then we're going to have lots of great content. We're going to have lots of diverse content, and players are going to be happy, and that is not going to change at all. So, Tom, here's my question to you. When you hear that Microsoft isn't changing their identity once the new hardware releases, are you confident that along with the big AAA bangers, the word of the generation, the indie community will continue to be properly represented? What do you think about that?
If it's anything like the way it is now, with the ease that Xbox and Microsoft are offering these small indie developers to self-publish, I think that they will be represented in a very, very fair manner. I'm personally happy for it because a lot of the great games, for example, like Void Bastards, for example, is on the Xbox Game Pass. I probably would have never played that unless it was on there. And I think that what they're doing, and that's just an example. Of course, Cuphead isn't on there, but but it's the fact that they are offering us brand new games which have been created by a small team,
right?
And it's easily accessible. And that's what they got their one up on PlayStation for, in my personal opinion. And that's pretty much the reason why I eventually bought an Xbox, was because of these amazing games like the Void Bastards, like the Cuphead. I've wanted to play these types of games, but of course, as you put just before, PlayStation are looking to just push out all these big AAA bangers. Was it? That's
yes.
The whole going through the rumor mill at the minute. But no, I mean, I've got many good memories of playing, in small indie games from the Xbox 360 on that little arcade indie section on there. And the fact that they've transitioned the care that they've given towards indie titles to this generation, and they've pretty much garnished it. They looked after it and everything. And quite frankly, as you put, like, Cuphead was a huge success, and it wasn't made, and it probably wouldn't be possible without Microsoft offering this feature for indie gamers. And I believe the process is fairly simple. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm happy for it. And if most of these indie titles go on something like Game Pass, because that's the way I usually work, is that I like to try things out beforehand.
Right.
And Game Pass is fantastic for me to try out all these titles which I've never played before, without having to spend a bit of money towards it, or even go through a demo. I don't really particularly like demos myself. I like to just get the whole thing there and then make my decision. But that's just me. If they continue to support these indie titles like via Game Pass, then it's only going to continue to thrive, despite all these big AAA bangers and everything that people put out. I don't think as long as they promise that they will look after it and be represented in a proper manner, indie developers, indie lover of indie games shouldn't worry a thing. Shouldn't worry at all.
Right. No, I absolutely agree. I think that it's important that a diverse lineup for your console is, I think, it's super important. And whether you know this or not, Tom, is that they've recently turned the ID at Xbox into the ID at Xbox Game Pass. And basically what that means is that all of these games that are coming to ID at Xbox through this program are day and date releases to Xbox Game Pass, like their first party. So if you are in that program, your game, when it launches, is going to go right into Game Pass, which currently has millions upon millions of subscribers. As a matter of fact, I've said this before, I'm paid up until 2022.
Amazing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I take advantage. When they're on sale, I go crazy. You know, buy 3 months, get 3 months free. Sign me right up. Take my 30 or $45 and I'm good. But yeah, it's interesting that and that's something that no one really talks about. Like you know, when you think about it, no one has said on any show that I listen to, and I listen to quite a bit, how important the ID at Xbox Game Pass really is, because all of those titles that are self-published, PS, by the way, by these small developers, are going right into Game Pass, where they could logistically go onto the store and just get lost. But because they're going on to Game Pass, you know, obviously we know when new games get added to Game Pass, that's where the marketing for Microsoft gets an A+. The rest of their marketing, not so much. But that's a horse of another color. But when we're going to get titles every month to the Xbox Game Pass, that's being published by everyone. Everyone's talking about it. Even the big game media is dropping, oh yeah, the 8 games are coming in. You know, boom, here's the 8 games. And you know, some of the titles are small, we never heard of them, but you know that they're coming. Whereas if they didn't have this program, title A could just be released into a plethora of games, and they may not even get a sale, because people, it's so overloaded the store that there's no real advertisement for them. You know, they used to have Summer of Arcade, which I absolutely adored. I think some of the best titles on the Xbox 360 in the indie scene came from the Summer of Arcade, and we don't have that anymore. And I've actually tweeted at Phil Spencer to get that back. You know, they should do that, but I don't think they're going to. But that, again, that's a horse of another color. I think it's important to represent the smaller community. Before we move on to the next topic, would you agree with that, Tom?
Oh, I agree wholeheartedly. Xbox Game Pass is probably the best thing to ever happen to gaming. No shadow of a doubt. In my personal opinion, of course. And it's fantastic for all indie developers and lover of indie games as well. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, it is, and again, and important, more specifically to that small developer that does not have the Microsoft money behind it. But you know, I want to talk about a story that I pulled from the pages of Push Square. This is a PlayStation-centric gaming site, if you don't know. They are, I would say, a little biased at times, but I had to pull the story because it's important. And obviously, they're claiming that Sony is looking to be locking timed exclusives, both in content and in games, for the PlayStation 5. Now, one of the major complaints with Xbox, with the Xbox fan base, has been Phil Spencer's unwillingness to get exclusive content and or games, something that Sony themselves went out of their way to do almost the entire generation. A tactic that has been extremely successful for the market leader, who currently now sold nearly 100 million PlayStation 4 consoles. And at E3 2019, Phil and company brought 60 titles to their yearly conference, 14, which of course were first-party titles leading the charge. One exclusive shocked everyone, me more specifically, which I thought to be a new Alan Wake, that turned out to be Blair Witch, which looks amazing. That's being made by Bloober Team, makers of the excellent Layers of Fear. I don't know if you've played that. But the big surprise was the announcement of Phantasy Star Online 2, which Phil locked up to a year exclusive on the Xbox. That's releasing in 2020. And And so here's my question. This isn't a big topic per se in well, you know, how much I wrote. We're going to leverage the weight of this with the near 100 people watching. So thank you so much for that. And I want to get your opinion, of course, Tom, because you are the co-host on today's Xbox Factor podcast. With Sony looking to start the next generation with a strong first-party lineup and lock down second and third-party deals, it's a strategy that has worked extremely well. And now that with the 15 Xbox first-party studios hard at work to bring the hardcore games that we all have been asking for this entire generation, should Phil Spencer open the checkbook to get some second and third-party exclusives while we all wait until the first-party developers can deliver?
Well, there's no doubt about it that Sony's approach has just been a massive success. And obviously, we're selling nearly 100 million consoles worldwide. Personally, I ain't much of a fan of the whole idea of exclusives because for me, it just seems to create a rift that is just unnecessary. However, as you put, exclusives do matter. They are a huge selling point for this generation consoles as well as next gen. And don't get me wrong, Gears 5, Halo Infinite, arguably the two biggest IPs that Xbox could have right now. But that doesn't mean that all the 15 Xbox first-party studios, won't be a treat and they won't appeal to every gamer. As you said, they are aimed directly at the hardcore gamers and not every casual gamer, which I do believe there is quite a few of those, would ever think about touching one of these games.
Correct.
Yes. And I know that this isn't, touching on the criticism towards Phil Spencer, but I believe that, as we've already said, indie games are fantastic, but they're not that appealing to these casual players.
Correct.
And they're not going to be the reason why that someone is going to buy a whole console for it, because those consoles cost a lot of money. You're going to want to buy it and you're going to want to get something that, is going to be fantastic, a banger, shall we say. But I'd say it'd be very wise for them to open up the checkbook, so to say. I mean, like on the possibility of IPs that are more appealing to the casuals, bring them in. I mean, look at Sony. They did it for Spider-Man, and what preteen and teenager doesn't love Spider-Man? And that sold what? How many copies? Well, it's obviously in the millions.
Yes, yeah. There were. Listen, I don't know the exact number. I want to say that it's probably close to 10 million.
Yeah,
and that wouldn't surprise me. Spider-Man for the PS4 was astonishingly great.
Oh yes, but there's the fact that there's a lot of people who love Spider-Man, and obviously, as it shows, that exclusive sold. So I'd say it's very silly for Phil Spencer, Microsoft, Xbox, whatever, that they don't try and get all these big exclusives in that can appeal. I know this is not exactly maybe differing from the whole point of third and second exclusives, but I believe what they need to do. And of course, I don't know about the budget or money or whatever, but I think they do kind of need to purchase more things, more IPs that are appealing to the casuals.
Yes.
Whether that obviously, well, we shall see what happens in the future, but I do believe that a criticism is quite fair. And we just have to see what happens, especially with this whole news reports or rumors or whatever that Sony are looking to buy up all these exclusives, even timed exclusive content and everything. They're making big moves, and I think that Phil Spencer, Microsoft, whatever, need to try and counter-react with those big moves that are being played at the minute.
Well, look, here's the thing. First of all, and I've said this publicly, I think Phil Spencer is the right man for the job. Some people disagree with me. Some people do not dig his niceness factor. And I do. I do, simply because I'm known as officer friendly. That's not a shtick. That's not a persona. That's not a mask I wear. That's how I was in uniform. That's how I am on the air, off the air. And with the gaming public that I'm constantly talking with on social media. What you see is what you get. So I respect his ability to be a nice guy. A lot of people don't think so. People want people to be cutthroat, and that's not his persona. And I truly appreciate that. But I am going to say that even with all of the niceness, I still have my criticism of some of his tactics. I'm a big fan of Phil. I've said that before. But at the same time, there's been talk throughout the community in the last couple of days, and the word hardcore continues to show up. And even though, if according to statistics, Tom, the hardcore is not the majority of gaming. It's not. It's not even. It's. I would dare say that if you took a pie chart, I would, and this might be a stretch, that 25%, and that's a bit of a stretch. 25% of your active community is the hardcore. But what people fail to realize about the minority in regards to gaming, as opposed to the casual, majority, is that the hardcore is what sells your consoles. And why do I say that? Because if I'm a hardcore gamer, and I'm enjoying game A on the Xbox, and I tell Tom, who doesn't have an Xbox, oh my God, Tom, this is an amazing game. It's in Game Pass. Game Pass is a few bucks a month. It's like Netflix. You get 200 games, and this game is in there, and it's a AAA banger. Tom is going to go to YouTube and he's going to go look at this video and say, holy shit, that game looks amazing, and go out and buy an Xbox, whatever. And that's obviously what has really helped Sony, where it is the casual console, but that is not its Achilles heel. I don't necessarily know if they have an Achilles heel, to be honest with you. Certainly not in this generation. And again, I know this is an Xbox show, but you have to call a spade a spade. And their tactics, though some people would consider them scummy and ruthless and cutthroat, this is a business, folks. At the end of the day, they're all about making money. And yes, Microsoft is making money, but I think what they need to do to start the next generation, and I believe they're positioning themselves to do this. Okay, this is not. I don't think this is not me saying I don't have confidence. In fact, I have a significant amount of confidence moving into the next generation on how they're going to position the marketing for the hardcore, to let us know that they actually hear our cries, and that they're going to support, that we're going to help them drive sales for the new Xbox. But they did not do that this generation. Sony did, and the numbers, come on, Tom, the numbers don't lie. If you want to get crazy and say there are 45 million consoles, Xbox One consoles, I'll agree with you. I might even go crazy and let my hair all the way down and say it's 50 million, but it's still 50% of what Sony has done. And like I said, I understand this is an Xbox show, but you can't talk about one competitor or one platform and not talk about another. And we've seen what Sony has done, and it has worked wonders for their brand. And we'll close out this topic, Tom. And I know you might have answered it, but I'm going to ask the question again. Do you think it behooves Phil Spencer to kind of tear a page out of Sony's playbook, even if he's not going to follow it to the T, kind of maybe take a few pointers from the aggressiveness of focusing on the hardcore?
I think he has to. Honestly, I think he has to. I mean, yeah, he's got the whole nice approach, but, he's got to let the beast out within sometime. And not necessarily he's going to be absolute bastard or anything, but, the whole try and get in there, float a bit of money around and buy people out and everything like that. Not buy people out. Well, I suppose it is technically buying people out and try and get exclusive and everything. I think he has to. He just has to. He has to. It's just my opinion. And he has to.
Well, I mean, listen, time is going to tell. We do, obviously we know that they're heavily investing in the brand. They do have 15 first-party studios. And if you recall, E3 2018, they had 7, Tom. So the fact they've gotten 8 with making, obviously, the quadruple A, a monster that we're expecting that developer to be, as well as buying 7 others. And from what we understand, they are currently, and again, this is rumors. I'm not going to go too much into detail. I'm trying to find out some more information from certain connections that I have, but we are hearing that they're currently. They were wanted to acquire a Japanese company, but what I'm hearing is that it's not that they're going to acquire a particular one. They're going to make their own from scratch. So they're currently gathering talent in Japan to announce very soon. Now, whether that's at XO19 or Gamescom, we should be hearing something soon from what I hear. And I'm hoping that does come to fruition, because obviously xCloud is going to be a big deal, but it's going to be a big deal in Japan, where they're very heavily marketed towards the on-the-go kind of play. And if xCloud is as good as I think it is, and I had a chance to actually use it at E3 2019, I was completely blown away. So if they can have a Japanese developer making Japanese type content for both the mainstream Xbox players, but also focusing on that region, it could be a big win for them, and it could, they could finally get a foothold into that market, which they have not been able to do for years. So we're well aware of that. But this topic was incredible. I hope everybody enjoyed it. I know that the chat has been going back and forth. And like I said, folks, you come here, you're going to get good banter as long as it's respectful. And I'm not calling out anyone in particular. What I want to say is this. This chat is known as being one of the friendliest chats. Now, I understand if someone has a difference of opinion, sometimes it could be tempered. But all I ask is that you guys kind of respect each other. And keep the cursing down if you don't mind. I would appreciate that. And just, if someone has a different opinion, listen, people are fans. It's the same ideology in sports. I'm a Steeler fan, right? Obviously our hated rivals are the Ravens. But even though I'd like to see the Steelers beat the Ravens 10 out of 10 times, I'm not going to go after someone because they're a Ravens fan. I have respect for people. So that's all I ask, is that you guys kind of just keep it on the level. And I would greatly appreciate that. But Tom, I want to talk about the Xbox Elite Wireless Controller Series 2. And the reason why I would bring that up is I didn't get a real chance to talk about it from my experience at Xbox Fan Fest. It is, oh my God, this controller is real. And when I mean it's real, I don't mean that obviously it was a ghost. I mean that this is the real deal, perfect controller. I think it outshines the original, the leaps and bounds. I had a chance to play, get my hands on it. I played a game that I can't talk about for about 20 minutes, and it felt so good. It didn't feel like I had anything in my hand.
Really?
Yeah, that's how amazing this controller felt. As a matter of fact, I don't even know how to describe it. It felt heavy and light at the same time, where it felt like it was an extension of my fingers. That's how amazing this controller is. And we know that it offers 30 new ways to play. It is $180. It's $30 more than the original. But I want to assure anyone that's listening now, that will be listening later, I am happy to report that it's going to be worth every penny. It is, the Elite Wireless Controller Series 2 is going to be releasing this year, which I'm stoked about. I'm going to say this, Tom. When you talk about premium, right? You think maximum the best, right? Like when you say the word premium, or like you're going to get into a sports car, you bought the premium edition, you're expecting leather seats, you're expecting climate control, you're expecting Bose technology for your sound system, and an engine that purrs, right? Well, you're going to get all of that and a bag of nuts with the Elite version V2 that comes out later. And I want to just talk about what it actually comes with. The premium components, which of course include a carrying case, a set of 6 thumbsticks, 2 standard, 2 classic, 1 tall, and 1 wide dome. It comes with the set of 4 paddles, 2 medium, 2 mini, and it comes with 2 D-pads, standard and the face-lifted one. And it comes with the thumbstick adjustment tool, charging dock, which is in the case. You can charge it while it's in its case, which is freaking dope. And obviously comes with the braided cable where you can charge out of the case. But the internal battery, I think no one is really talking about this, because there have been a lot of people, depending on what camp you're in, a lot of people are like, I like batteries, Boom. I don't like the charge thing. Well, I understand, but this charge holds for 40 hours per charge. That's a significant amount of playtime. And according to Navin Kumar, director of product marketing at Microsoft, the long life battery is designed to operate at its full capacity for years, meaning that as the controller gets older, you're not going to have a problem where it's only holding charge for 20 hours as opposed to 40. They put a lot of tech into this device, which is why it's a little bit more. But Tom, here's my question to you, and I think I know the answer because you just got an Xbox, but I'm going to say it anyway. Having spent some time with the using the 2.0 controller, or the V2 as it's being called, I've already pre-ordered mine. Actually, I pre-ordered mine on the show floor of coming out of the Xbox conference.
Wow.
Do you see yourself buying the Elite version 2, even though it does have a heavy price of $180?
Well, for over here, it's just over 100. Well, just under 160 pounds.
Right.
But obviously, it's not that much difference, really. But of course, I would have to speak to my financial advisor, otherwise known as my wife.
That's very true.
But I mean, obviously, I don't think I'll be picking it up straight away. Because I've just got my Xbox right now. I'm still appreciating it, everything. And yes, I will go and say, even though I've been playing PlayStation for many years, that I will admit, I'm the first one to admit, that the controllers of the Xbox is beyond better. I was a bit skeptical when they mentioned about it being a battery, but if they're guaranteeing that it will last for years and it won't just burn out or run down or become crap in any way, then heck, I'll take their word for it. I mean, it's beautiful. Do not get me wrong. It's absolutely beautiful. You can adjust everything, the whole D-pad with the sentry and everything. It's amazing. But I want to ask you, how was it with the paddles?
Here's the thing, folks. Now, the paddles, like my brother Neo Mental lives and dies by the paddle. And I don't mean like he's into S&M or anything. I'm talking about the Elite control. Yes, I know. I took it really dark there. No, my brother Neo Mental is an assassin using the paddles when he plays games, especially competitively. Destiny 2, the Crucible, and the Division 2. He is an assassin, and using those paddles, I never did. I'm gonna be honest with you, I never did. But the game I was playing, the controller I obviously had the paddle in, and they had the jump buttons added to the paddles, which I have never used. And my God, it felt so good and so perfect that I wasn't even using the buttons on the controller. I was jumping second nature with the paddles, using my my index finger on my right hand. It was like I said, I don't use the paddles normally, but I can assure you that they felt so well represented in my hand that I think I'm going to start playing like that once this comes out. I believe it releases in November. It might be November 4th if I'm not mistaken. I am all in on this controller, and I'm going to tell you this, Tom. Once you, and I said this actually not just to Tom but to the entire chat, and if you have an Elite controller, you know what I'm talking about. Once you use an Elite controller, it is very difficult to use anything else. That's how amazing the controller is. And this one, the V2, absolutely leaps and bounds is better than the original, which I love. And I own 3 of, by the way.
That's amazing. I mean, ideally, in an ideal world, I get it straight away. But that's the shame though, because you got to pay for other things as well.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, gaming is expensive, folks. I mean, sometimes it is an expensive controller. It's a premium experience, and we know with anything in life, whether that be a car, a hotel stay, or a vacation, the premium always costs more because it offers more.
Yeah. Ideally, I'd pick it up.
Yeah, I mean, listen, again, I throw this out there to everyone, and again, I don't get paid by Microsoft, folks. This channel was created because I'm an Xbox fan, but I also have 2 other shows that cater to multi-plats. But I have to say this, even though my dream job would be, of course, and I say this jokingly, and I'm waiting for the phone call. I think I'm a fair dude. I think I'm well represented in the community. I would love to work for Microsoft. I will. Should I get picked up for the marketing team, make Xbox great again? No hat required. I will go out of my way to be that Xbox guy. Do I think it's going to happen? No, I don't think they hire older dudes. I'm going to be 49 in September, so I doubt that they're looking for old talent. But if anyone's listening from the Microsoft team, please hit me up. I am a good mouthpiece. I know how to talk properly, and I run a proper channel. But I'm interested to see how many people in the do me a favor before we move on to the next topic. Chat, throw a 1 in there if you're a day 1 buyer of Elite V2 or a 2 that you're going to wait. And let's see what, and we'll come back to that in a few because we got to let people get their opinion in on that. But Tom, I want to talk about Cuphead for a second. Obviously, we know that it's the media darling story, right? We know that the folks that made it, Studio MDHR, really were on the cusp of bankruptcy at one point, making this game where they had to mortgage their homes to finish the game. Wow. And obviously, we know that Microsoft stepped in, and Microsoft realized that this was going to be a winner. And I don't know how they helped them financially, but I know that the game has sold over 3 million copies, not only on PC and the Xbox One, but of course on the Nintendo Switch, which, by the way, last month was number 2 behind Minecraft. 2 games that Microsoft owns the IPs for. And obviously they're making money as well, but it's on both those games. Funny that they're Microsoft games on the Nintendo Switch at number 1 and number 2. But this story happens to be about the delicious Last Course DLC that would be coming, and it was supposed to release this year. Unfortunately, though, it was and has been delayed until 2020. And though this slightly is going to be disappointing for me as a Cuphead fan, which I suck at it, by the way, but I'm still a huge fan. Obviously, this goes in the same lines of disappointment for me for Ori and the Will of the Wisp. It's been delayed until the beginning of next year. These are 2 releases I was really looking forward to for the Xbox, but that's fine. I'm willing to wait. I sent you the video, and it wasn't long. What were your thoughts on the fact, Tom, that the DLC was delayed, but did you get a chance to watch the video? More importantly,
I'm assuming you mean the trailer of it.
Yes, the trailer.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah. Good. It looks amazing. It's very short. I mean, it's short and sweet. Probably the best way to describe it. But it looks. I mean, to be honest, I haven't actually played Cuphead yet. I do plan on doing it myself. I plan on buying a copy ASAP. But the fact that it's delayed, it's a shame. Of course, it's a shame, because when you got a game that you love, the game that you love, of course, you want to expand it as soon as you can and whenever you can. Have they actually given a reason why it's been delayed?
They're putting more work into it. I'm going to say this. They didn't go into specifics as to why it was delayed. The new trailer does offer a look at some new bosses, like a giant snow-covered mountain, as well as an abominable snowman. But I am going to say that, Cuphead was delayed several times. And when they released the final product, obviously it's looked upon as one of the gems of this generation. If they're saying they need more time, I absolutely would say take as much time as you need, because they wanted to release correct. They don't want to tarnish the name of Cuphead. And I think that a delay just proves to me that they're very stingy with particulars. They want their game to be well represented, not only for the company but for the people that are going to enjoy the DLC. So I'm actually okay with the delay.
I don't think it will get. I think people are pretty upset because it's a year, pretty much a year until we actually get it. Well, half a year now, I suppose.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't. I don't think it'll be that bad. I don't think people are going to go sour on it, where it will impact the sales, for example. I think it's gonna be worth the wait, and for me, it gives me time to actually play the damn game. So
yeah. Real quick, I just want to shout out Alex1324. He's saying in the chat that they're avoiding crunch. The development crunch that has been demonized by many people from the Kotaku side of the aisle. And they're just allowing the small development team to do what they have to do in a proper manner. So if that in fact is the case, Alex 1324. I want to thank you for throwing that in there. I want to just, I'm okay with that. And real quick, I didn't get a chance to type to him, so I want to say hello to the Indie Gamer. Very good friend of mine. Had him on the show several times. He is an amazing personality on Twitter as well. Please check out that dude's YouTube channel. I'm a big fan of his. Love the way he talks about gaming and his passion. Welcome, my friend. And of course, but yeah, Tom, and anything else you'd like to add to the Cuphead topic?
Nothing much really, other than it looks fantastic. Well, of course, everyone's probably played it by now, except for me. But yeah, but I wouldn't worry too much about it. If they're taking time to make it perfect, appreciate the love that they're putting into this game. Don't just go all sour because, oh God, you promised it'll be this year. Just wait, and I guarantee, judging by the way it is already, it will be worth it.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. Well, listen, I'm going to say this. This has been, I can't believe 90 minutes has flown by. We were able to get all the topics in.
Wow.
Had over 100 people watching on a holiday, which I want to say thank you, chat, for that. A lot of banter back and forth. I want to thank everybody for being here and taking time out of your holiday, if you're, of course, in the States, to listen to the show. I hope you thoroughly enjoyed it. Tom, I got to tell you, my friend, I'm going to have you back again. Loved what you did on today's show. Thought that you seem very knowledgeable about gaming. Love what you've done in the community, how active you've become. Love your honesty, especially when you're talking about, I just got an Xbox One S, and you're being upfront about that, and that's amazing. But I want you to tell people a little bit about the BG4G hub and what exactly means, where they can come to sign, register, follow that on Twitter, and of course, more importantly, follow you on Twitter. I don't know if you have a YouTube channel as of yet, but to let everyone know where they can follow your incredible work.
Oh, thank you very much, Boom. Personally, I'm T Wild, WILDE 1995. We're also, as in BG4G, is available on Twitter at BG4G Hub, as well as www.bg4ghub.com. And BG4G, it's pretty much it does what it says on the tin. It's by gamers, for gamers. A bunch of gamers come together to try and give you as much honest opinions in regards of games, news. We don't really do rumors because you never know, they could turn out not to be true, and we don't want to cover stuff like that. We just want to cover newsworthy stuff that has been, officially been made. But of course, you head on over to that. We got reviews. We got podcasts like this one, the Double Barrel Gaming, connected up through there. We've even got the possibility. We've even managed to embed a Twitch live stream. So in case you want gameplay, we've got that as well. We've got a few opinion articles as well up there. It's slowly growing. It's only been about a month and a few days since it became active. It's a brainchild of Mass Mayhem and Elite Gaming Guru, which was passed on to myself. And I'm so damn proud to be a part of it. And Boom, thank you for getting me on here and passing on the good word of BG4G. Thank you very much.
No, it was an absolute pleasure and honor. I'm glad to have done it. Glad to have you on. This certainly will not be the last time you're on here. I got to get Master Mayhem on this show, or at least Breakfast with Boom at one point or another. Would love to have. Actually, we're gonna try and set something up in the background where I can get the entire crew on a Breakfast with Boom. And we'll make that kind of like a coming out party exclusive to you guys. And we'll talk more about that behind the scenes. Would love to do that. I'd love to get the word out about your site and what you guys are doing, because the one thing about the media in 2019, it's very one-sided, depending on who you like. And I like that your site is honest. I like that it keeps away from the console war nonsense. I like that it's not going to report on rumors, that if you have facts, you're going to talk about it, and you're going to talk about it in a way that someone that comes to the site, you're respecting their time. Not a lot of these websites do that anymore. The IGNs, the Kotakus, the GameSpots, they just assume that you're there because they're great, and they don't respect the reader's time anymore, and they talk about nonsense. And I like what you guys are doing, but I want to say real quick before we get out of here, I want to thank the chat again. I want to thank the few super chats that I received. Thank you so much for the generosity. I also want to thank everyone that has been here on a holiday. Tom, I want to thank you personally again for taking the time out of your day to spend 90 minutes on the Xbox Factor podcast. And I want to wish everyone, if you're in the States, a happy and safe, more specifically, 4th of July. Please be careful when lighting fireworks, especially the ones that really that go boom, because you don't want to lose any fingers or hands. I've seen too many of that. Don't drink and drive. Treat others how you want to be treated. And guess what, folks? It doesn't cost anything to be nice. Please have a great day. Enjoy your holiday weekend. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Factor podcast. Take care, everyone.